I see a ton of videos and content about returning to dumb phones or getting a flip phone, right? Going back to old technology. And people seem obsessed with going back to this older tech because I feel like people want to be in a simpler time. And I've definitely felt this desire to get rid of my phone and use other things like replace my phone camera with an old digicam or an actual camera, get a record player instead of using Spotify, get a CD player, put that in my pocket, use notebooks only, don't use my notes app, and get a handheld gaming device or something. I do think these things are really cool. Don't get me wrong. I like my vinyl records. I have a good collection of vinyls. I have some CDs and I have a couple old digicams, but there's like this idea that we need to go back to this tech for everyday use. And I think this is not a good idea. I think it would be way too much of a hassle to actually try to be all hip and use this older technology every single day. And it would actually cause more distractions in your life than less. And this older style stuff just seems to be a trendy thing to post about on TikTok and YouTube. And I mean, maybe some people do commit to it, but I doubt they stick to it for a long time, other than to harvest the views they get from being cool and owning this old tech. And I feel like it's just a marketing gimmick as well. Companies are definitely starting to catch on to this, and they're starting to sell this e-waste. They're trying to capitalize on this trend, which is really supposed to be about minimizing stuff in your life, minimizing distractions, minimizing brain clutter. And instead of minimizing stuff, they're going to sell you some more junk to play with, right? So it's just going to make things more complicated for you. And I think there's definitely an easier way to simplify your life if you really want to simplify your life as far as technology goes. And it doesn't involve buying a bunch of new junk, a new bad technology, right? So why do I think this older tech trend is really just going to turn into a hassle for you rather than keeping your smartphone? The first thing that comes to mind for me is obviously navigation. GPS is pretty much essential to get around unless you want to pull out the old map and be freaking, I don't know what, Diego from Dora the Explorer, find the map, right? But I can't imagine trying to get somewhere I'm not familiar with without Google Maps. Some of these new dumb phones apparently can run Google Maps, but I think it looks kind of clunky looking and probably won't work super well. So unless your car has some kind of GPS system built into it where you don't need to have a phone for GPS, I don't think it's worth the hassle of trying to find a way to navigate without it. And that's the main problem with using this dumber tech, is that you almost have to have another piece of technology to make up for your flip phone sucking. Another example of more clutter you'd have to have if you got yourself a flip phone instead of just keeping your smartphone would be if you want to go take some pictures, or if you're just in a situation where you want to have decent looking pictures, you're going to have to carry around a camera everywhere you go now. And I know real cameras are way better than smartphone cameras, but I really don't want to haul around a DSLR everywhere I go just because I got a flip phone. And I also like to take pictures occasionally, right? A lot of people like to get these old digicams that get that retro look. And I think those looks are kind of cool sometimes if you get a decent one. Some of them are just straight up garbage though. And I do own a couple of them. I have some old digicams. I got like a Nikon DSLR from 2004, and they take those nice vibey photos, but they do kind of suck to carry around. And I'll take these cameras on adventures and things like that, but I would never take them with me everywhere I go every day. I'm not going to haul my camera to the grocery store. I'm not going to keep it in my pocket all the time. I don't have the pocket space for that. Yeah, but my smartphone, if I want to take a quick shot, see something cool, see a nice sunset randomly on my way out, I can take a quick snapshot of it and no worries, One more hassle with some of these older cameras, if you're thinking going to the older camera route to be cool and hipster, is some of them don't take normal SD cards. I found that out. I got some older ones and they max out at like 2 gigabytes, maybe 4 gigabytes. If you put anything better in there, they just won't run. And they also chew through AA batteries. So there's 2 more things you got to worry about buying. You got to buy an SD card. You got to buy more AA batteries for these cameras if you want to carry that around every day and keep the utility that you had when you had a smartphone, right? It's not minimalist to carry all that stuff around at all. And then it comes to music, right? We all like to listen to music every day. I can't imagine not having access to music that I want to listen to at almost all times, right? At work or driving around, hanging out at home. But so now I got a flip phone, and then I'm going to have to buy a CD player or something I can take with me. You look really cool with that strapped on my belt. And I'm going to have to buy some CDs. That's a lot of money to buy in CDs if you want to have all your favorite songs, right? And before, I could just open Spotify and play any song I want in the world. I understand the importance of owning physical media, though. I do agree we should own some physical media, but I don't think it's worth hoarding and spending all your money on physical media just so you don't give money to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use. I have a handful of vinyls and CDs for myself that of some of my favorite albums, and I think it's good to support your favorite artists for sure. But I couldn't listen to I couldn't buy all the music I want to listen to, and it definitely would not simplify your day rummaging through a CD holder, to listen to your favorite music. Or even say you got an MP3 player, right? Now you got to go buy the MP3 tracks from some online store, or you could do the other thing. But I think we're talking about supporting artists here, not yarring it up. But I guess you could argue that it would be simpler to not have as big of a music collection, but I don't think that's an area that we need to simplify for ourselves. At least for me, I enjoy having a good library I can choose from, even though I don't own the songs. But I mean, if the Spotify went down, I guess I would go buy the songs, right? One of the places I do support physical media for, though, this is also because it's not an everyday carry type item. It would be for movies and games, right? That's an at-home thing. You can have a pretty large collection without it being super inconvenient or distracting for yourself. And I just like to collect Blu-ray discs mostly. Blu-ray's a lot better than streaming movies. And it's not too expensive as long as you don't also subscribe to streaming platforms, right? So imagine, you got streaming services like $15 a month now, and you can't even watch it outside of your home. Kind of a scam, right? You get ads. You got to pay more if you don't want those ads. So imagine you had 4 streaming services. That's like $700 something a year. And that's a lot of discs you could buy, especially if you get some from eBay or used, right? You could get a pretty good collection in 1 year with $700. But I feel like music streaming is a little different than these movie streaming sites, because at least on Spotify, I got pretty much every artist in the world on there, instead of Netflix, where they have a handful of good things, and then I got to go to HBO for the next handful of good things. Then I got to go to, what else is out there? Peacock for the next handful of good things, right? I also like to read on my phone too. That's pretty nice to do. So reading, your phone can replace some books if you don't want to carry a book with you everywhere, but you still want to read on the go. You can have your phone be your book, right? And I don't want to get a dedicated e-reader. I don't want to carry a Kindle around, get a flip phone, then I have a Kindle. That's a lot of stuff to keep in your pockets, right? I just have a really good e-reader app on my phone. It's called a Read Era. I think they have a free version, and it's just a simple PDF reader, way better than the file viewer. So definitely check out that app if you want to read on your phone. And if you do want to read on your phone through an app like Read Era, you can go to projectgutenberg.com and download a bunch of free ebooks. They even have like the EPUB format, so you can customize it in the reading app. And they're all free because they're public domain, right? So you're not even pirating it. And they got some good stuff on there. So if you want to read some books for free, just go to Project Gutenberg. I got the John Carter books on there. If you ever watched the John Carter movie, there's the Odyssey, you got the Iliad. So if you watch that movie, you need to read something about it. You can read something about it. All the classics are on there for the most part. Another hassle that you'll get from using dumb tech would be just communicating in general. It's not very communication friendly to use the T9 keyboard, right? Imagine you get a novel from somebody yelling at you or telling you how much they like you or something, and then you got to respond with the T9. You're tapping 4 or 5 times just because you keep skipping the right number or the right letter that you want to type back. So if you're a one-word typer, one-word texter, maybe a flip phone would be okay for you as far as texting goes. But if you want to actually respond to people in a timely manner and you don't want it to be a headache when you're on the go, I don't think a flip phone would be very smart for that. And then imagine having to respond for emails for like work or anything else, and you only have a flip phone and you're on the go. You can't wait till you get home. Oh boy, imagine typing out an email on the T9. That would be crazy. And even if you just want to search up the web for a quick answer on something, I don't think these flip phones have very good browsers. And then you got to type it out again, right? You got to type up all that stuff. And they're not very powerful devices either, so maybe it won't even load the internet. So yeah, pretty much all these hassles. I don't think it's worth replacing your smartphone with a flip phone to allegedly simplify your life, because it's really going to complicate it. You got to get all these different things. If you want to keep the same utility, if you want to just go off the grid, I guess a flip phone would be fine. But if you want to keep the utility of your smartphone, you don't want to worry about keeping a bunch of items with you in case you want to do anything like listen to music. You don't want to get another camera because your flip phone camera is 1 megapixel. Yeah, definitely just keep your smartphone instead of grabbing a flip phone to simplify your life, because it won't. And all this flip phone stuff, I think it's just a trend. I don't think people are going to stick with it for a long time. It's just something people can post about on the internet, which is kind of ironic, right? To make social media posts about using a flip phone. I just feel like there's endless content on YouTube and all these other platforms about going digital minimalist, right? Being a digital minimalist enthusiast, if you will. And digital minimalism shouldn't make things more complicated, right? They talk about how they're using only their notebooks to take notes, right? They're only using their CDs for music, only a camera to take pics, only a flip phone to talk on. It's so simple, but it's not. It's just nostalgia bait, really, going back to a simpler time, allegedly a simpler time. It's also almost a luxury to not need a smartphone. You have to be fairly well off to not need one, and you have to have a job that doesn't involve a lot of mobile communication. You have to be able to afford a car with a navigation built in, right? You have to afford to entertain yourself outside of scrolling reels. Reels is a cheapest form of entertainment, really. And then you got to, afford the camera and mic setup to film yourself being cool with your flip phone instead of using a smartphone. And really, you got to have a good community around you, too. That's a big problem with today, is that you don't really have a good community, so we spend all our time online. I'm sure there's real people living out there with a very minimally digital life, especially some older people, right? But they're definitely not posting about it and saying how much it's improved their life, right? Not trying to get views off of it. They're just living the real simple life, not going along with this trend. They're not going around saying, I feel so early 2K with this flip phone I just bought, and then they just throw it in a shoebox after a month or two because it sucks. And that's another thing. A lot of this minimalist digital stuff is just waste. It's wasteful consumerism, really. You're just buying all this old stuff that you didn't really need before because your smartphone already did it. And you're probably going to get rid of it after a while because it doesn't work as good. And I think companies have definitely seen that because of all the hype going around on social media. I've started seeing ads for some minimalist smartphones. There are like phones coming out with e-ink displays, and it looks like paper, and it has no distracting colors, right? And there's one that has a keyboard like the old BlackBerries, so you can type on it without having to worry about the T9 texting. There's one with a headphone jack, which I do agree should not have been taken away from us. There's one that support Maps, Spotify, WhatsApp, etc., right? All these tech startups are probably just Temu tier garbage being sold for a crazy price. Some of the prices on these new production hybrid smart/dumb phones are actually insane. I've clicked on some of the ads for them, and they're like $500 to $600 or more. I believe I saw one for $900 a while ago, which is a lot to ask for a phone with minimal features that probably runs like a potato. And I'm not paying high-tech prices just to get some plastic junk with nice clicky tactile buttons. Some of them are like $300, but remember, you still have to buy all your other gadgets now if you want to keep the same utility. I've also seen ads for like these toy tier cameras that kind of goes along with this digital minimalism. They advertise a scree-free experience for nostalgia's sake, right? They got a film-like disposable camera, which is just a crappy plastic shell with a super cheap digital sensor in there. It's like a webcam tier sensor with some filters built into it. The exaggerated sepia, the stupid black and white stuff they used to put on all these old digicams, but worse because it's on like a webcam. And it doesn't even have a screen on it, so you can't see what your pictures looks like. And you could get the same retro look by adding some filters to your smartphone. I think, it's just downgrade your photos and it'll look just like a digicam if you want that look. So yeah, it's almost more consumption to go digital minimalism than it would be to get a smartphone. And that's why I think it's a trend, We like to buy stuff. We like to consume items. We don't like to just keep what we have. Be grateful for what we already have. But I guess a point to go lower tech would not so much be to simplify your physical collection of stuff, not to empty your pockets out, but I think it could be nice to not have access to all the crazy stuff we are fed on the internet, right? It sure would be harder to doom scroll if you couldn't do it at all because you have a flip phone that doesn't support the internet in general. But I don't think the scroll blocking is worth all the investment into owning a dumb phone and all the other things you need to buy to replace your smartphone, because there's actually a way you can just turn your current smartphone into a somewhat less smartphone. There's this crazy thing called apps, right? You can download some apps and it'll block all your distracting apps for you, I used one called Digital Detox on Android. And I'm not affiliated with them. I have approximately 3 subscribers, but this app lets you choose what you want to block and what you still want to work. I'll keep my maps unblocked, right? Keep my maps unblocked, keep the Spotify open, because unless you're doom scrolling on maps, that thing's not going to be distracting. Or if you're doom scrolling Spotify, I guess you could maybe doom scroll Spotify. But whenever I get that itch to get off my social media, I just block the social media apps, and I don't want to delete them because I don't want to sign back into them because I don't feel like remembering all my passwords. So I just block them for a while. In this app, I can block them for, 2 hours at a time, up to like multiple weeks at a time. And it gives you like points or something for doing it. It's just kind of fun. Don't really care about the points, but doing this, blocking your apps instead of replacing your smartphone with a potato, I think is more worth it and really more digitally, really more minimalist if you want to simplify your life. It's not minimalist at all to just buy more stuff. And having one item that can do it all, the Swiss Army knife of items, which is your smartphone, and making it not distracting is probably the best way to minimize or simplify your digital life. So at the end of the day, I think all this old tech stuff can be cool to play with, but more than playing with, I don't think it's worth it. You can't make it your everyday thing. I like my digicams. I like my record player. I have a VHS player too. I have a handful of old VHSs, which are fun to watch. And I got all that good stuff, but they can never be my primary device. It's just way too complicated to get everything to work smoothly for an easy day, a distraction-free day. So unless I'm like homeless or super rich or something, there's no way I could actually live without a smartphone and still have a simpler life. I'm sure some people can do it, but I can't. I don't think most people could. It would just be way too much of a hassle to deal with all that potato tier technology. And I think most people just do it to be trendy, right? It's a trendy thing for young people to post about. They look cool for their viewers. And I got some respect for the ones that actually commit to it, but it just feels like a trend that people are trying to capitalize off of. And there's just all those products out there that'll become e-waste because people will find out that their smartphone really was the minimalist option. So yeah, I think the real way to simplify your digital life is to just block or delete those problem apps if you want to delete them forever, or just block them when you need to, when they're becoming a problem in your life. And keep your apps that actually make your life simpler. You know, there's no need to make things harder than it already is. We live in the big 2-6. Things can be pretty hard for the average fella. And for sure, it's easier said than done with the temptation of the algorithms out there. But if you just remove those apps for a day or two, it'll get easier for you to not get distracted as much. But yeah, screw flip phones. We don't want those. Stop trying to make new ones. Don't sell them to me. Don't sell them to us because it's just going to make things harder. That's probably all I got to yap about. So thank you for listening if you made it this far. And yeah, have a good rest of your day.